dealing with this pest that is on our kale. So it is that time of year where things in the kale family, the brassica family, are beginning to transition out. They are getting stressed because of the heat. Cabbages, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, pak choy, Swiss chard, they don't like a really high heat. That's why we tend to grow them in the spring, fall, early spring, fall. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm seeing a Harkland bug. And so what you're seeing is stressed kale, you know, some bleaching from these Harkland bugs. And you see I got my squash interplanted down, and it is ready to just explode and take over from this kale. And what I'm doing is I'm heavily harvesting it right now. I am taking it down almost to just 1 or 2 leaves, and it's still pumping out leaves. But as I'm taking these leaves and I'm taking them inside to preserve them, dehydrate them, and to put them up in the freezer, I am also cleaning off eggs. I am washing and killing the Harkland bugs. And so I'm taking care of this pest at the same time, while also getting a solid harvest from my kale. And this is a great method to stack functions of taking care of a pest of a plant that is transitioning out of a season. See, I have a squash interplanted in there, ready to just explode and give me good juicy squash and patty pan and zucchini. And so we heavily harvest this to take care of the pest, give us that abundance that this kale has just really provided for us. And we are allowing this squash to take over. It is ready. See it right here, just taking over my broccoli. 'Tis the season. I'm back in the kitchen and I'm just gonna take this kale and freeze it. And what I've been doing is freezing a little bit at a time. I don't have the time right now to do a huge harvest. As you saw, I only harvested one side of the row. I will come in another day and harvest the other, and I'm just gonna go side to side to side and slowly put it up. My goal is to get 2 freezer bags full of kale. My minimum goal is 1. So we'll see how long the kale lasts and how much I can put up. But this is 2 rounds of what already. So this is 1 round through the row. And what I'm gonna do, as you can see, I'm gonna look at the kale. They're fixing the car. I'm gonna look at the kale and see if there are any bugs or eggs in it. And then I'm gonna peel it from the stem in bite-sized pieces. And then just place it in here. And look, there's a little Harkland bug that I brought with me. And that's good. That's what my goal was. And I will just put him in a thing of water and help with the pest. Overall, this will probably take me 4 to 6 hours to fill those bags. However, I'm not doing it with some eggs. I'm not doing it all at once. I'm doing it in 45-minute to 1 hour increments, because that's just what my life can handle right now. Some eggs. Just put them in the trash can. And I'm making sure I'm getting kale that isn't like pokey and really getting bitter, and you can tell that by the texture. If it's super pokey and it means that it's getting ready to go to seed. And then it gets super bitter, and even when frozen, it's not going to taste that great. So some of this is pokey, the bottom stuff and that. So I'm going to just avoid those parts. If you hear the dehydrator going in the background, that is raspberry leaf, red clover, and lemon balm that I'm drying to store for teas this winter and next spring. I really, really enjoy raspberry leaf, so I want to store at least half of a gallon of that. And then I harvested plantain right outside my door here. I'm going to make a vinegar tincture with that. See, here's some eggs. Pretty pokey. And I will, oh, here's caterpillar. Just squeeze that and put that in the trash. And I will continue to do this with my kale, and I'll show you how much a basket's worth of kale, how much fits into the freezer bag. So you can compare what a fresh just going into the freezer bag and then how much it really freezes down once you get it going. Okay, so this is how full it's gotten. Right here sits the frozen from the last batch. I got this is a much smaller quantity because I remember now that I split it with half went into the dehydrator and half went into this bag. So this is probably one basket worth. So this right here will freeze down to about this much. And all that I do is that I compact it down. Pushing all the air out, coming in, compacting it down. And pretty much just smush it and roll it down. Getting all that air out and just really compacting it down. And then that's how much is in there now. It's about that much more. So I'll have to get, you know, 1, 2, maybe 2.5 more baskets in here to get it. So I finished. This is only 2 rounds, so that's 10 trays of the Excalibur dehydrator in 1 quart jar. And this will probably grind down to 3/4, maybe even half of a quart of kale powder. So to review, I experienced a pest. I saw that it increased dramatically. So I started harvesting the crop that they were heavily infesting. And by doing so, I started clearing out some of the pest. I was still allowing the pest to be present in the garden to allow natural predators to come in. So it can reach that peak point. You know, the pests have to get higher and higher and higher to push predators to reproduce to a certain point. So I was still allowing that to happen, gaining a harvest for myself. I knew I was going to lose that kale crop, but still preserving it, still eating it in abundance, pushing myself to harvest, over harvest it because it was getting stressed because of the heat that kale was. Freezer getting full, dehydrator, working. Now I reached the point where the kale has stopped putting on new leaves, and it's just becoming a skeleton from those pests. So what I did is I chopped it at the base level, out of the ground, and I just fed it to the chickens. And then I replaced it with another crop interplanted with a squash, because the squash are producing. Now they're coming and exploding out to where that kale was, and now they're producing at a higher rate. They have more sun available to them. I was kind of suppressing them within the kale. And by suppressing them, they stunted and slowed their growth to where now I got to a point where their pests are not that high because of where we are in the season. Gave those kale after, you know, I allowed the pests to reach a certain point. I saw predators come in, starting to eat it. I saw a slight decline in the pest pressure. Chopped the kale off, gave it to my chickens. It fed my chickens, my layers. They ate all the bugs and the eggs and all the kale that they wanted. Gave them a fresh green. And then I planted in lima beans. That's a dry bean that I'll keep in there until they're almost dry on the vine, because I don't want little buggies to come in and eat them. So I'll pull them off, and then I'll have lima beans stored up for the winter. The lima beans are also a little bit of a slower growing, so it'll allow the squash to blow up and kind of like take up that space and grow and produce. And by the time, you know, either a pest of them come in, or, you know, squash and zucchini and patty pan have a shortened life, they start dying out, the beans will take over, and then I'll replace the squash, chop and drop the squash, chop them to the ground, leave the roots for the soil, give the tops to my chickens so that I'm removing any pest, and then replace that squash with a fall crop. Spinach, Swiss chard, broccoli, any of the things I'm planting in the next 2 months to harvest now in this fall season, or I'm going to overwinter. I need them to grow through fall to establish a strong enough root system to be able to grow and survive the winter here, the snow season. So yeah, full circle. I'm utilizing the principles of obtaining a yield for myself. I'm obtaining a yield for my chickens. They're getting the kale, they're getting those pests, they're getting those bugs. They were so excited when I threw that in there. Just eating it up. And so not only am I meeting these principles with these strategies and techniques specific to my area, which is important because principles can be applied anywhere, but strategies and techniques are specific to your bioregion and your microclimates. And those are going to change per where you are and also who you are, your time limits, your goals, your intentions on the land, and specific to the land that you're on. So my strategies and techniques was to preserve the abundance for myself and my family, share the abundance with my chickens, chop and drop, feeding the soil in my garden, feeding the soil in my chicken coop, which is going to become a garden with the kale, organic matter, the poop from the chickens, and then allowing the pests to reach a certain level so that my predators have enough food to push them into reproduction. And then the pests are also still being mitigated to allow me some abundance, to allow me some while allowing the pests to have some to push that predator in. Okay, full circle permaculture here. So that is what you just learned with me. Well, I thank you for watching my video and your patience with me as I am learning this YouTube flow of how to record and edit and do all these things while still homesteading, while still working. I was able to record processing chickens this weekend, and so I'm excited. We've got some videos coming up that are already recorded, and hopefully we can get them out. So thank you for your patience, your understanding, and being on this journey with me. I look forward to more. And comment below if you have any questions, or if you want to share some of your pest management, your integrated pest management. This is one facet of my whole IPM, so I'd love to see what you're doing. We can learn together and grow. All right, thank you, friends. Bye.